July 21st. I'm starting out in the greenhouse. I got some serrano chiles, jalapenos, and some sweet peppers, a couple eggplant, another couple pepper plants, and an eggplant. Growing in the greenhouse right now, not much else because it's middle of summer. Here I got 9 varieties of tomatoes that I'm growing on a single vine. So I usually will produce a set of tomatoes every 2 or 3 leaves, depending on the variety. Getting nice long racked set on these cherry tomatoes. Good fruit set on some of these heirloom tomatoes. Hopefully those will ripe in a little bit. Sun Golds already ripe in July. Come outside and I got flower garden here, mainly just for decoration, pollination. Got some cool variety of different kind of cottage style garden. Some stuff over here that looks a little tropical. Some dahlias, zinnias, sunflowers, cosmos. That'll all be looking much cooler in a couple weeks. Got containers over here. Some of these I will overwinter. Plumeria that I started from a cutting in Mexico. This one from Florida. Smell excellent. A few more containers. There's the view from the patio. More stuff for the pollinators. And then this area will be more of a perennial garden. Got some fruit trees started. That's a pluot with 4 varieties grafted onto it. Got the Violetta artichoke. Those are kind of cool. Until this fills in, I put some winter squash. So I got a bunch of butternut squash. Some more artichokes. These ones I'm letting go to flower just because the pollinators dig them. Got some grapes there. Back over there that eventually will grow along this fence line. Peach tree you saw back there has not come up. I have to replace that. Little nectarine tree. Here's a whole row of blueberries. About 20 plants that I planted in 2018. Some of them are just now starting to set fruit. We've had a really good fruit crop. These are tayberries. The floricanes have already been removed. They produced a nice crop, so now I'm trying to trellis up this year's primal cane growth. So for next year, we get a good crop. Got a fig tree here that's putting on some figs. Bare root pear tree that is not produced for me yet. Comeys pear tree. Got a pretty good fruit set. It'll be ready to harvest late September, early October. This is an Asian pear that fruited really heavily last year, so I don't have a ton of fruit on it this year. These will be ready in September. Honeycrisp apple tree. Fruited heavily last year, no blossoms this year. Same with this Fuji apple tree. So we'll have to do some summer pruning once they finish their full growth. This is a hardy kiwi that's not really in an appropriate spot. That's going to need to move. These are Canby raspberries. Again, really vigorous primocane growth that'll attach to the trellis here, and has already finished producing, so I need to remove the last year's floricanes. I have a plum tree with 3 varieties here. These golden plums are just about ready. Another couple weeks. This is a Rainier cherry tree, already produced earlier this year. That's another cherry tree, sweet cherry tree with 3 varieties grafted on it that is also already produced. Got a couple peach trees here. These ones were damaged by overproduction last year, but still set. Some pretty good flowers. A couple more, few weeks for these. Fig tree is producing figs. Those are usually ready later in the fall, September-ish. This peach tree produces a little earlier. I'd say this is going to be ready probably in another week or so. These are my fall-bearing raspberries. They produce flowers on the first year cane, so I should get a pretty good fruit set soon. Already producing some ripe fruit, but more of that later. Rest of the blueberries, plant them from early to late, so some of the early varieties are almost done, just the last few blueberries on that plant. Harvesting out this bed right now, which was planted in May. That's all beets and carrots. These are potatoes, 4 or 5 different varieties that are in various stages of growth. The smaller potatoes, like the red potatoes, and that looks like a Yukon Gold. The vines have already died back, so there should be tubers ready for harvest. I've started harvesting the bed from this end, harvesting red potatoes. I have 3 blocks of sweet corn, all the same variety, the cookies and cream. So those were planted over a period of 30 days. These ones are just starting to tassel and produce. These ones right now should be tasseling and we'll be making corn soon. Got 5 varieties of cantaloupes and melons here. They've really enjoyed the heat and are vining out quite aggressively. Got a row of sauce tomatoes here that eventually will grow up to the top of this trellis. They're just now flowering and setting fruit. And this is what I'll make salsa with or preserve other tomato-based stuff. Over here I got some Mexican sour gherkins and cucumbers that are growing on this trellis. This is a blackberry variety. It's vigorous and hard to control of my brambles. I don't know if this will stay forever. I might remove it and grow something's a little easier to manage. Started over with this raspberry bed. These are all 3 varieties, Heritage, Amity, and Fall Gold, of fall-bearing raspberries. They will produce on these first-year growth and already have produced and are continuing to produce some fruit. This thornless boysenberry is the one I've gotten the best at managing, and it produces incredible amounts of fruit. These primocanes are thick, already growing up, probably already 10 feet, 12 feet long. I need to cut those back so they focus on the laterals. It's going to be a tremendous fruit set. It's already been a tremendous fruit set. Going to be a very, very, very heavy crop. Got dahlias here, like flowers, hardy hibiscus, some zinnias, and other cut flowers, gladiola, other stuff that's already bloomed. And then this row of beds, I got asparagus there, also an asparagus back there. They're still sending up new spears, but I don't harvest those. I let them frond out. I need to fertilize this bed so we can really start taking advantage of the production in future years. These are various sweet peppers. They're pretty small now. They'll get much larger later in the season. Got 3 eggplants right here next to these Walla Walla sweet onions, which are bulbing up nicely. I already removed the red onions that were planted here, and I've sown a couple rows of beets that'll be ripe in the fall. Here it's beans and small basil plants that will be for our pesto. Some winter squash. These are a butternut squash. A couple remaining cabbage heads before I turn this bed over into something else. And we got beets, chard. Looks like some lettuce that I planted in there. These are the Seascape strawberry, ever-bearing strawberry. Some lettuces, heat-tolerant lettuces, and looks like some butter crunch lettuce, maybe some romaine. 2 more beds of the strawberries. These produce a large crop in May or June, and then will produce much more in August. Another bed that has some bush beans, a variety, 3 different kinds it looks like, plus some basil. These are sun gold tomatoes. They're an indeterminate vine, so if you only grow 2 vines, you get these long bracts. That must be nearly 2 feet long. Every single one loaded with tomatoes. Get a better look at one. So these will produce heavily. Looks like more sweet peppers and eggplant. Here more cabbage that's finishing a little later. These were transplanted in May or June. Sweet peppers, a bunch of different kinds of roasting peppers, various sweet peppers. Here I planted herbs. Those are, looks like cilantro and basil, again for more pesto production later in the season. A couple cucumber vines that we put in late, but those will grow extremely rapidly. Today we just planted peas and arugula in here. We'll see what happens. That'll be a little bit of an experiment. More basil, and God, I don't even know what I planted over there. Maybe carrots or something. Another bed of strawberries. Here we have some beets, spinach, and bush beans. The spinach will grow and be done very quickly. Strawberries just continue to set fruit continuously. There'll be a heavy crop of these in August. This is another bed of basil. Space them about 12 inches apart because they grow quite large. These are more slicer tomatoes, a pineapple heirloom tomato, and a couple talent tomatoes, which is a local heirloom variety that does quite well. Those will be producing heavily. The other original blueberry patch still producing berries. It was a little later this year because it was cooler and wet. We have more sweet peppers here. These look like mostly shishitos, or all shishito peppers. And just now starting to set the fruit crop. These are probably more shishitos also, maybe a couple other sweet pepper varieties. More lettuces. Those look like mostly a romaine lettuce. And some kale. Here I just planted 2 more rows of bush beans. These are more melons growing up that trellis. Also melons. Here I have sweet peppers. I also planted some more basil in there. Here are a few more varieties of peppers, shishitos, or various sweet peppers. And then we have some winter squash. This is a delicata squash. And then some summer squash, a couple different varieties of zucchinis and crookneck squash. And then these carrots are nearly ready to be harvested or all ready to be harvested. So it looks like about a month into summer.